You are far from camp. The sun is going down. You have no clock, no phone, no road, and no light waiting ahead. Only trees. Only shadows. Only the sound of the forest changing around you. This was not a rare problem for ancient humans. This was daily life. They had to know when morning was safe, when midday was too hot, when evening was dangerous, and when the night was about to take over. Today, time is just a number. We look at a phone, and in 1 second, we know the hour and minute. We know when to eat, when to work, when to sleep, and when to wake up. But ancient people lived in a very different world. They did not have clocks. They did not have alarms. They did not have calendars hanging on a wall. Still, they were not lost. They knew when to leave camp. They knew when to come back. They knew when the cold night was near. They knew when animals would move. They knew when the season was changing. Not because someone told them the time, because nature was showing it to them every day. For ancient humans, time was not about meetings or daily routine. Time was about survival. A long shadow could mean, go back. A cold wind could mean, prepare the fire. Silent birds could mean, something is moving. A changing moon could mean, this night will be darker than the last. They did not measure time like us. They survived by reading it. And this is where the story becomes serious. Because in the ancient world, being wrong about time was not a small mistake. If a hunter stayed too far from camp after sunset, he might not return. If a group waited too long to collect firewood, the night could become dangerous. If people missed the right season to follow animals, hunger could enter the camp. So the real question is not only how ancient humans told time before clocks. The real question is, how did they learn to read the world before it was too late? Long before time became numbers, it was something people felt through danger. Morning brought light and movement. Midday brought heat and exhaustion. Evening brought warning. Night brought fear. Every part of the day had a meaning. Ancient humans may not have said, "It is 7 in the morning." But they knew morning by the sound of birds, by the color of the sky, by the warmth slowly returning to the land. They may not have said, "It is noon." But they knew the sun was high, shadows were short, and the body would lose water faster. They may not have said, "It is evening." But they saw the shadows stretching across the ground. They felt the air cooling. They noticed animals becoming active again. Time was not written. It was seen. It was heard. It was felt. And slowly, over thousands of years, humans became experts at noticing small changes. A bird calling earlier than usual. A wind turning colder. The sun rising from a slightly different place. A river swelling after rain. The moon becoming brighter night by night. These signs were not background details. They were instructions. The world was telling them when to move, when to stop, when to wait, and when to prepare. And those who understood these signs had a better chance of living through another day. One of the oldest ways humans understood time was through shadows. This sounds simple now. But in the ancient world, a shadow could carry life-saving information. When the sun rose in the morning, shadows were long. They stretched across the ground, soft and cold. As the sun climbed higher, the shadows slowly changed. By the middle of the day, they became short and small. Then, later, they grew long again. Ancient humans did not need modern science to notice this. They only needed to watch. And they watched everything. A tree's shadow moved. A rock's shadow moved. A spear stuck into the ground made a shadow that moved. Even the shadow of a human body became a kind of signal. In the morning, a long shadow did not mean danger in the same way. It meant the day was beginning. There was time to travel, search for food, gather plants, check the land, and follow animal tracks. But an evening shadow was different. An evening shadow meant the safe part of the day was ending. That was the serious part. Today, Sunset can feel peaceful. People watch it from windows, beaches, and rooftops. But for ancient humans, sunset was not only beautiful, it was a change in power. During the day, humans had their best advantage. They could see. They could use tools. They could move in groups. They could read tracks, find plants, and spot danger from a distance. But after dark, the world changed. Human eyes were weaker in the night. The forest became harder to understand. A branch could look like an animal. A shadow could hide a predator. A safe path could disappear in darkness. And many animals did not fear the night like humans did. Some moved better in darkness. Some hunted when the heat faded. Some came closer when the human group was tired. So when shadows became long, ancient people had to think carefully. Should they keep going? Should they return? Was there enough time to carry food back? Was there enough time to collect wood? Was there enough time to reach shelter before the dark? This is why time was not abstract for them. It was practical. It was physical. It was urgent. A shadow on the ground could decide the next action of the group. And this is also why ancient people likely learned time from experience, not from lessons. A child did not need a classroom to understand evening. The child saw adults become more alert. The child saw fires being prepared. The child heard voices become lower. The child learned that when the light changed, behavior changed. That was education, not written education, survival education. The sky was the teacher, the land was the book, and the price of ignoring the lesson was high. Midday also had its own meaning. When the sun was high, the land could become hot. In some places, moving too much at midday could weaken the body. Water mattered more. Shade mattered more. Animals might hide. Tracks might become harder to follow on dry ground. So ancient humans did not simply divide the day into morning, afternoon, and night like we do. They divided it by what the body could do. There was a time when walking was easier, a time when hunting was better, a time when heat was dangerous, a time when returning was necessary. A time when fire became more important than movement. This is a deeper way of seeing time. Modern time is fixed. 7 o'clock is 7 o'clock whether you are tired, cold, hungry, or safe. But ancient time was connected to the body and the land. Time changed with light. Time changed with weather. Time changed with hunger. Time changed with danger. And this made ancient humans very aware of their surroundings. They could not afford to ignore the sky. They could not live inside buildings, cut off from the outside world, and still survive. Their life depended on noticing what modern people often miss: the slow movement of light, the change in animal sounds, the smell of rain, the direction of wind, the way the ground cooled before night. All of these were part of time. And perhaps this is why ancient people did not see time as a clean, straight line. They saw it as movement. The sun moved, the shadows moved, the animals moved, the seasons moved, and humans had to move with them. But the sun was only part of the story. The night had its own time. And the moon changed everything. For modern people, moonlight may feel romantic or quiet. But for ancient humans, moonlight could change what was possible. A bright moon could make the land visible. It could show paths, trees, rocks, water, and movement in the distance. It could help people travel short distances at night. It could help them watch animals. It could also help them see danger coming. But a dark moon was different. On a moonless night, the world closed in. The land disappeared only a few steps away from the fire. Sounds became more important than sight. The group had to listen carefully. A small noise could create fear, because no one could easily see what made it. This means ancient humans did not only ask, "Is it night?" They had to understand what kind of night it was. A bright night, a dark night, a cold night, a wet night, a dangerous night. The moon helped them understand longer patterns too. Night after night, the moon changed shape. It grew brighter, then became full, then slowly disappeared again. This was one of the clearest cycles in the ancient sky. Even without numbers, humans could notice the rhythm. The moon returned. Its light changed. Its darkness changed, and that change affected life on the ground. A group might feel safer moving under a bright moon. Hunters might watch animal behavior differently. People near water might notice tides. People traveling across open land might use moonlight to avoid obstacles. But the moon was not just useful. It was also mysterious. Imagine sitting near a small fire thousands of years ago. Around you, the land is dark. Above you, the moon changes night after night. It disappears, then returns. It becomes thin, then round. It lights the world, then leaves it black. To ancient people, this pattern must have felt powerful, not because they were simple, but because they were watching one of the great rhythms of nature with no modern explanation. They could not open a science book. They could not check an app. They had only memory. And memory was important. Someone in the group remembered that after several dark nights, light would return. Someone remembered that a bright moon made travel easier. Someone remembered that certain animals behaved differently in certain nights. This kind of memory became knowledge. And knowledge became survival. The stars also mattered. At night, the sky was not hidden by city lights. It was clear, deep, and full. Ancient people saw the stars in a way most modern people never do. Over time, they noticed that stars were not random. Certain stars appeared in certain seasons. Some rose before dawn, some disappeared for part of the year. Some returned when weather changed or animals moved. This was not modern astronomy yet, but it was observation. And observation was one of humanity's greatest tools. The stars helped people understand direction. They helped people recognize seasonal change. They helped people feel that the world followed patterns. That pattern was important, because a world with patterns can be learned, and a world that can be learned can be survived. Slowly, humans understood that time was bigger than one day. The sun told them about daylight, the moon told them about nights, the stars told them about longer cycles, but the most serious clock of all was still ahead: the season. Because a single night could be dangerous, but a bad season could destroy everything. The most dangerous clock was not the sun. It was the season. A day could kill one careless hunter, but a missed season could starve an entire group. This is where ancient time becomes much larger. Humans had to know when the world was changing, not just hour by hour, but month by month. They had to know when rain was coming, when rivers might rise, when certain plants would grow, when fruit would disappear, when animals would migrate, when the cold would return, when hunger was getting closer. Today, we know seasons from calendars. We can say winter begins on a certain date. We can check the weather forecast. We can store food in refrigerators. We can buy food from markets all year. Ancient humans did not have that protection. For them, the season was not a background change. It was a force. It controlled food. It controlled travel. It controlled shelter. It controlled danger. When warm days came, certain plants appeared. In some places, roots, berries, nuts, and fruits became available for a short time. People had to know when to gather them. Too early, and the food might not be ready. Too late, and animals or other groups might have taken it. Animal movement was also tied to time. Herds did not stay in one place forever. Birds moved. Fish appeared in certain waters. Large animals followed grass, water, and weather. If humans understood these patterns, they could plan. If they missed them, hunger could follow. This is why elders were so important. Older people carried time inside their memory. They had seen many seasons. They knew when the cold usually came. They knew where animals had passed before. They knew which plants appeared after rain. They knew which signs meant danger. In a world without written calendars, memory was a living calendar. A story could carry time. A warning could carry time. A repeated journey could carry time. A child might hear, "When that wind begins, we prepare." Or, "When those birds return, the animals are near." Or, "When the nights become longer, do not travel far from fire." This was not superstition only. Much of it was careful observation passed down through generations. And this kind of knowledge made humans different. They were not only reacting to the present, they were preparing for the future. That may be one of the biggest secrets of human survival. Many animals live powerfully in the moment. They react to hunger, danger, heat, cold, and movement. But humans learned to think ahead. They learned that the cold would come before it arrived. They learned that food would disappear before the land became empty. They learned that darkness would fall before the sun was gone. They learned that time could be read before it became a crisis. This ability to prepare changed everything. It helped humans survive harsh winters. It helped them move across difficult lands. It helped them store knowledge in memory, stories, tools, and later, markings. At some point, humans began to mark time more clearly. They may have scratched lines into bone. They may have counted moon cycles. They may have placed stones where the sun rose or set. They may have returned to the same places at the same time of year. This was the beginning of measuring the invisible. Because time cannot be held in the hand. You cannot carry yesterday. You cannot touch tomorrow. But humans found ways to remember it. They saw time in the sky, but they also began to place it into marks, places, stories, and rituals. And slowly, time became part of human culture. Not only survival. Culture. People may have gathered at certain seasons. They may have remembered the dead. They may have followed animal migrations. They may have watched the return of stars or the changing moon. Time became connected to fear, food, memory, and meaning. But the beginning was simple. The beginning was survival. Before humans built clocks, they watched the world. Before they counted hours, they counted changes. Before they owned calendars, they followed seasons. And before time had a name, it already controlled their lives. Today, our clocks are exact. They tell us the hour, minute, and second. But they also separate us from the older way of seeing time. We no longer need to watch the shadow to know the day is ending. We no longer need to know the moon to decide whether the night is safe. We no longer need to read birds, wind, cold, and animal movement to prepare for tomorrow. But ancient humans did. They lived inside time in a way we can barely imagine now. They felt it in the morning light. They saw it in the long shadow. They heard it in the quiet forest. They feared it in the coming night. They remembered it in the changing season. So how did ancient humans tell time before clocks? They read the world. And the world was always speaking. The sun told them when to move. The shadow told them when to return. The moon told them what kind of night was coming. The stars told them that seasons were turning. The cold told them to prepare. The animals told them when food was near. For them, time was not numbers. Time was survival. And those who learned to understand it lived long enough to pass that knowledge forward. Long before the first clock was built, ancient humans had already learned something powerful. Time was not just passing. Time was warning them. Time was guiding them. Time was deciding who would survive another day. And in the ancient world, the people who could read time were the people who had a future. This is ready for voiceover.